We are recording on the camera. We are now recording on the Audacity stream. Speaking of audacious, we are recording our first official relaunched podcast as a team here, and we have to figure out what it's going to be called. So we want to include Basecamp in the title, but what is it? What else? What is it at Basecamp? Is it Basecamp something, or is it something at Basecamp?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I like the fireside chat, the fact that you could get really connected with people when you're surrounded by a fire and have a conversation. But I'm also not sure if that's the best way for us to connect with people who are going to be listening to this podcast.
Right.
Right. I hear fireside chat and I think about FDR. I'm not sure it's going to connect with our demographic.
Right. Who's FDR?
I've never heard that name before.
That sounds like an old guy. Sounds like an old guy. Which we repeatedly get called around. Anyway, it's not inaccurate. So that's like fireside at Basecamp, conversations at Basecamp. That's kind of, I don't know, it seems kind of vanilla.
Basecamp chats.
Basecamp chats.
It's very informal.
Basecamp. What other way can we lean into the concept of expeditions and the communication channels that take place in expeditions? Like, how do we?
A lot of fancy words.
Yeah, that's how do we lean into that? How do we? Like Basecamp messaging,
Basecamp journeys,
trail notes. Trail notes at Basecamp.
Like trail notes. I like journeys. I was thinking.
Yeah, Basecamp journey sounds.
Basecamp journeys.
Yeah.
Basecamp journeys. Let's ask our live studio audience.
All 0 of them. I'm glad they could give us a lot of feedback visually as well as verbally.
All right, everybody, live studio audience. Cue cheesy early morning radio DJ sounds. Okay, enough of that.
I was waiting for the crickets.
They do have.
I was hoping they were here. Sad trombone.
Sad trombone. All right, don't let me push.
No more of those.
No more of those buttons. Oh.
We are not the radio.
So, what was it that was Basecamp?
Basecamp journeys or
Basecamp journeys.
Dave. We haven't even introduced ourselves, by the way, which I think is a really
Camp
bad.
Notes, did you say?
What's that?
Trail notes.
Trail notes.
Trail notes.
Yeah.
Trail notes from Basecamp.
Okay.
Trail notes from Basecamp.
It's a working title.
Trail notes from Basecamp.
Working title.
Working title. And none of us thought to bring a pen or paper to write that down.
It's in my head. It's in my head.
All right.
Yeah.
This is being recorded, so
This is true for posterity.
I'm pretty sure we could listen back on it.
You say that now, but it's been a long time since I've used this equipment. It might be lost to the ether. Who knows? Who knows what's going on the interwebs today? So, trail notes from Basecamp.
Who are we?
Who are we? Well, who are you?
Hi, everybody. Mark here. Super excited to start this out.
All right.
Dave, along for the ride.
And I am Jay, pushing silly noise buttons. So our conversation, we're just going to record a bit of a conversation about our why. Like, why is Project Imo? Why not why are we having a podcast? I mean, it's a given, right? We have the equipment. We like to talk, so we have our podcast about things connected with Project Imo. We have the trail notes from Basecamp. Why are we here? Why is Imo here? What is Imo? Why is Imo here? Why is Project Imo here?
Why are we all here?
This is deep. This got deep really quickly.
What is life?
This reminds me of, was it Naked Gun, where the character was asked, "Why are you here?" And he said, "I'm a locksmith, and I'm a locksmith." I'm a locksmith
and I'm a locksmith. That might have been was that Airplane? No,
it might have been Airplane.
I think it was Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's
Leslie definitely. Yeah. Hospital. What is it? It's a big building with patients. It's not important right now. So Project Imo. Why are we existing here? What is the concept of like this Basecamp hub of activity? Why is Project Imo even existing?
Jay, I really think you need to start that off. You are the person who, in your brain, made this a reality and then put it out in the world. So I think your why is going to be the most important one. And then I think Dave and I could jump in and talk about why we decided to partake in your journey.
Well, see, now you're asking me to justify my existence and my paycheck, which is very hard to do.
Well,
So why am I here? Why is Project Imo here? So Project Emo, actually, I think I've always envisioned this as a chance to serve communities, serve our area, helping people get access and capacity for things to create their life's journey. Using it as a youth development engine, using it to help teach and learn and grow, and finding a place for the community to connect to do those things. That's kind of my vision. Initially for Project Emo was this nexus of people learning and growing together with a focus on youth, and also wanting to include nature as part of that conversation, as nature being very intentionally added into the conversation as a member of our community, so that it becomes its own entity that we work to build into the conversations that we have, the activities that we do. It's grown a lot over the years as to how we started with traditional challenge course programming, with some nature learning programming. Now we actually have Teen Center, our base camp, and part of that is now even our Spark space, our maker space, our youth leadership program. So it's grown a lot and how we've realized that. But to me, at the core, it has always been about building a charitable organization that helps people connect to the things they need and want to create their journey.
I know that the reason why I decided to jump in headfirst in some ways is first, Jay, your vision is tremendous, and I could just see the future in it, very similar to things that I found in my past that have given me a lot in my life. So there's a bit of authenticity and genuine want to give change and access to people who might not have it. And I grew up in a space where you kind of had to seek that out if you wanted to do anything for yourself. And so as an educator of a little over a decade now, being able to do a whole wide range of things, access was such a huge piece for me that now I feel like I'm in a place that I could help others have access to things they never thought they'd be able to participate in. Whether that is with technology that they didn't have resources to get for themselves, being able to get in the outdoors and have somebody guide them through an experience they've never been in, whether that's climbing a mountain that they never thought they could do, or going to a place that they never thought they'd get to. And that could be also, metaphorically speaking, if someone doesn't tell you that you could do something, sometimes you have limited beliefs that you'll never be able to actually achieve that. And so to be able to give people that access point was a huge factor of my why, of why I started, and why I continue to do as much as I can for Project Imo.
I think part of that is about growing the tribe of people that want to do that work and dig in and offer that and have fun along the way.
Yeah, I think adventure is the word that stands out in my mind when I think about why Project Imo for me. When you first hear the word adventure, you think you're going off on a grand journey, but that journey can be right in your own backyard. It can be right in the classroom. It can be right in our community. And helping students, in particular youth that we're working with, to discover that there are adventures right here in their own community, because so many of them have become disconnected or feeling a sense of disenchantment with what the world has to offer. So I think one of my key whys is being a part of that magic to spark some adventure in people's lives.
That concept of adventure being so many things to so many different people, and wanting to be able to help people on that journey in as diverse a way as we can, right, offer as much as we can, I think kind of really helped coalesce the idea of a base camp, what that is and what that could be, so that we have multiple offerings in different ways to have people connected to it, but then challenge them to not only learn in that path they want to go on, but to also try something new, step out of their comfort zones. And maybe it might be, I'm really into the outdoors, but now there's this tech stuff that never caught me. But now maybe I have an interest in it, and how do I integrate the two? How do we make better science communicators, nature communicators? Maybe I'm really into tech. I love the idea that there's a base camp in my town that has a makerspace and a 3D printer and this technology, and then what are those backpacks over there on the wall? That freaks me out a little bit, and that looks like an awful lot of work and things I'm not really that interested in. but maybe let's see what happens, right? And how opening people up to the possibilities for growth and change, and to your point, right, like the stuff that they just may not have access to. That's kind of why I see the concepts of us focusing our energies in those ways, and in helping people chart that path, and being, I think it's important for us, is to always just be open to other pathways ourselves.
Yeah, that's a really important one, because, again, for me, with the adventure, I had a certain mindset coming in, and I think one of the most powerful experiences for me being involved with Project Imo is learning from other people, whether it's the students we're working with or some of the other adults we've met along the way this past year. You realize that everyone's journey is a little bit different, and that there's so much value to learning from each other.
The stories that come out from all of these different journeys could really shape what can be down the road, right? Even if it's for yourself.
Yeah.
I would consider myself a lifelong learner, and I'm going to guess most people who do this kind of work also find themselves in the same space where they're constantly thinking about, wow, that's some value that you shared about that story that you had. And then how does that apply down the road? And maybe it's different for me and it's different for other people. You can make some connections that way, though. And being able to share those stories, I think Project Imo is one avenue that we allow people who might not be able to do that, or ourselves to connect with people that we didn't think we could.
It's exciting as starting an organization, building it to, because we've been, this is year 3. This year was a huge year, a big adaptation for us, which is always that unique mixture of excitement and abject terror, that roller coaster ride of what it is to start an organization, especially after a global pandemic, a worldwide economic meltdown, all those things. But really digging into that and living what we're talking about, right? Making sure that we as an organization, as a team, are outside of our comfort zones, open to change, interested in other people's stories as lifelong learners. And that's one of the things, the reason why I think we're named Emo, the meaning to us being youth-led change, that youth have a lot to offer as teachers, what they might not have with necessarily life experience, although they might have a lot more than we think, helping them share those voices, but then also, even if there is not the same body of experience, the perspective that they will bring will help to guide, will help to inform what we do. Just because it's really easy to fall back on prior experience and knowledge and learning, like, oh, this is how we've done it. Well, why have you done it that way? Because we've always done it that way. Well, we wanted to create a company that was about, challenge course education and nature education. And, well, then this opportunity comes up, and next thing you know, somebody's saying, hey, could you come in and run a D&D camp for the youth in our town? I'm like, well, I never thought I'd see the day where people would get paid to be a dungeon master. Like, it just didn't ever. When I was in the basement in high school, that was never on the radar. But then being open to that, like, oh, this is a really cool way to connect people with a journey that they want to take. Yeah, mix of excitement and terror as the journey unfolds.
The unknowns,
yeah,
right? It's always a little bit hard to take in the abstract and make it something real.
Yes.
And as we talked about the comfort zones quite a bit, you get that space where you're just not really learning a lot. And so even us, we have to move past the comfort, the fear, and really go into the growth and learning process as we try to understand other people who are coming in and coming through our programs or people we partner with. And so I see it as an exciting journey, and it's really fun to see the passion that people present as they maybe start, or you see them get to that next point in that journey of saying, oh, this is something that I might be able to do in the future, or this is the most interesting thing that I didn't know that I could do, or I've never participated in a D&D campaign. I didn't know this was even an option.
Right.
And so that, I think, is just extremely exciting.
So much of it comes down to not the youth that have come in, the energy they brought in through our various programs over 3 years now, and I think what are we up to? Almost 900 participants over 3 years worth of programming. The energy that they have brought in, but also the energy that we have a pretty big cohort of volunteers that have helped us grow over the past several years. I think we've had 38 different people contribute in different ways with different levels of, different areas of expertise, from instruction to engineering and consulting work and different things. But then having our staff that come in and do the programs when they arise, are dedicated, the team like that you gentlemen that are in here, like full on in, just different types of energy also helps keeps it fresh and pretty innovative, right? There's so many different voices that are here to help build something together, and just giving that space where we have an intentionality, we have a plan, we know what we want to achieve, but leaving our own pathways open to exploration. Like how we get there is probably not going to be how we thought we were going to get there. We're still going to get to the plan, but how we get there may look radically different than when it already is. When we started the company, you have a business plan, you launch a business plan, you've got marketing things and blah blah blah, and all the strategies that you're going to do to make a company. Our initial goal was in 10 years to have like a nature education facility in a remote area, and quickly started to change our thinking about this. That to connect people deeply, you have to meet them where they are, and then it shifted. The discussion with the board shifted to creating a base camp from which to launch the journeys, rather than a destination. Starting the base camp, so that's where the journeys can start. Maybe there is one of those things 10 years down the road in our future. Who knows? But it definitely, we've changed significantly what we thought we were going to do over the past 3 years.
I think that's a really fascinating part of the journey that we've been on this year, is while on the one hand there's a concrete goal of establishing a teen center, there's this other goal that's embedded in the mission, which is to allow each individual to pursue their own journey, whatever aspirations they may have. And in some cases, some of the youth we're working with, they're not even sure what their aspirations are. So it's a little bit scary when you're guiding that work and you're not actually, you don't really know where you're going, because everyone's journey is a little bit different. So creating a model where we have that's why I really love the concept of the base camp. We have a place where we can all start, and we can provide them with the tools and skills that we need. But then from base camp, everyone's going to kind of go off on their own journey, and then it's up to us as the guides here to provide them with some of the guidance they need, or maybe find someone in the community. Right. Connect them to someone in the community who has that skill set that can help them on their journey.
Absolutely, and I think that's critical. Like that point right there is, knowing that we are here to facilitate some journeys, help them maybe identify where they'd want to go, help facilitate some of that journey along, but realize there's a whole community of support out there that we just don't even know exists. Who else can we bring in? Who else can be a volunteer, a staff member, a guide, a mentor, all of the different things that connect people. And it doesn't just provide a stability for that individual's journey from base camp. It creates an ecosystem in the community of support, right? And that's how community level change happens, is the more people you have dedicated to this concept of us, a sense of place, the more powerful and impactful that is. Like that to me is where, you have the impact both on individual lives and on a broader community level, the potentiality for that to see what can we help this community achieve.
And everything you just heard is probably why so many people listen to what Jay says and want to volunteer, take part, and be in this community because of the impact that could happen. I know that's one of my whys, is because every time you talk about it and you come across as passionate as you are about the change that can happen, it just sparks something in me as well. And I could see that why other people will just engage in you presenting the why of Imo, because I think it's fantastic, and I think a lot more people could connect with what we're trying to do here, and hopefully more of the community members who will be brought in and share their experiences and the journeys, because I think it's super exciting.
Well, I'm just thrilled to see what's out there. Like there's so much, even over the past year when we really had that big inflection point. We went from being volunteer, part-time, working out of the house and going out for remote programming, to now having base camp, having formalized after-school programs, formalized in-school programs, formalized professional development, all the things that have happened, and all of the community that has come together for that and has offered up their time, their expertise, their passion, who have said, you know what, I'm going to drive my kid 20 minutes in one night a week, 2 nights a week for whatever needs to happen. Like that is just a huge amount of energy that the community is bringing in to the equation, which is very, very amazing to see. And it's really about how best can we help that? How best can we, and then follow where they want to go.
I like the words guide and facilitation. Oftentimes, if you're the teacher, you feel like you have to have all the answers. And I think one of the powerful aspects of what we're developing is a network. I like you use the word ecosystem too. So an ecosystem of caring adults in the community who can serve as facilitators of learning and guides. But it's not our learning. The learning is done by the individual who's on their journey. And part of what Basecamp and Project Imo provide is that network or ecosystem of guides and facilitators to help people to be empowered and to seek out their journeys.
And I can't wait to see, like, we've already had youth that want to be part of that guide work. Like the youth that want to be the ones that do the teaching, that want to lead and help not only just chart the course for themselves, but also contribute to Basecamp, that want to help lead in the small microcosm here, but and then beyond. And like, oh, I would love to learn how to do that and then teach that and then guide that way. Like there's already youth that talk about that. And I think that comes back, it harkens back to our, there it goes the word again, it harkens back. I'm going to play some old-timey background music. It's, it really comes back to our identity as Project Imo and the story that arose to Imo. And the background on that is people ask, well, what is Imo? Most people know Imo as EMO, which is a little emotional, whereas IMO is actually, it's rooted in this concept that's really big in adventure and challenge course education about like the tipping point of culture shift, often referred to sometimes as the 100th monkey concept. And that stems from some primate research where a young monkey was kind of innovated something in her troop and taught her peers how to do it, which is fantastic, but not abnormal in the animal kingdom. But then she did something very unusual, even amongst humans, is that she, as a young monkey, taught the adults in her troop how to do something. And within a 5-year time, 75% of the troop had adopted that behavior. It's kind of like the scientific root behind it, but it still comes back to youth-led change and youth-led culture shift. She also had learned to dip her food in salt water, and she was eating potatoes, so I think she made the first potato chips outside of humanity, which is, hats off. So mad props to Imo the monkey.
I can't even follow up from that because I agree. Like a great potato chip.
Yeah, right. Monkey potato chips. That's it. That's what we.
I do see that as a change maker. Right? Sometimes you think that you can't be that person to step outside of your comfort zone and decide to do something different from the rest, no matter who you are. You never know that one action you take could be the shift in the people that are around you.
Yeah.
Whether that's a lesson they could learn from your experience or if that's just you opening up and sharing something about yourself. What could change in the people around you? What could change in your environment? And what could influence your future based on your relationships or the journey that you're taking? And that's our why.
That's our why.
I think we nailed it.
We nailed it. Done. There's no applause button, and I'm not allowed to touch those buttons anymore anyway.
Not 100% on the nailed part, but I think we did something.
We hammered around it. We dented the lumber around the nail.
I think we identified the nail and the tools of what we need to do to hit the nail. I think we'll get there.
So what's a
Did
personal?
we screw it?
Maybe it's not even a nail at all.
It's not even a nail. It is. So the personal wise, like why this, right? We've kind of talked about it in terms of an organization, but why did you take that first step into this space, Imo? What made you say, yeah, this sounds like a great life choice to make?
I would say for me, it's just one more step in my journey. And I shouldn't use the word just, but it is. It's a step in my journey. Imo came along at the perfect time, and kind of what my work in education, your vision, immediately connected to me. We collaborated last year plus on some projects with the focus of trying to engage youth in an area where they're pretty disconnected. And that word adventure, like I mentioned before, that's always been a key component to me as an educator. The other piece that's been so important to me as an educator is to be a facilitator, to be a coach, and that's not always widely accepted in public education. So it's Project Imo and Basecamp has given me a place to explore the things I really believe in and to be around a community of folks who believe something very similar. And while it's exciting, it's also it's pretty daunting because it's doing something new, and that's not always something that is well accepted out in the community. But as we get our ideas out there more and more, we're finding out, wow, actually we're not as alone as we thought we were.
Yeah, that's been a pleasant surprise. So
for me, it's a definite it's a great step in the journey that I've been on around experiential learning and adventure education, and its role not only in just helping young people to find their dreams, but really it's adventure leads to an individual being able to develop that sense of self-confidence and that sense that, hey, I can do this, and I love that aspect of the work we do.
I don't know how to follow up from that. That is so well eloquently put.
Yeah.
For me, the why, I think, is the simpleness of being able to find some of my expertise that I could share, knowing that I found meaning in adventure and education, and to be able to share some of the things that I've learned through life with other people who might be going through the aha phases of understanding what they want to get out of their life, I think is super beneficial, because I had people in my life who were there in moments that I need to figure things out and gave me doors to walk through, and to be able to have the opportunities to step through was only because I was given access that I didn't even realize were options. And so to be able to be in a place where I could share meaning that is a culture established, I believe this is a space in which culture emphasizes learning strongly and giving access. And so for me, there's immense meaning in being able to be a piece of that puzzle, that the whole picture takes a lot of us to do, and being able to be a good piece to fit somewhere in that puzzle, allow others to have doors open for them, is just a huge natural progressive step for me to leverage some expertise and be open to learning. And so it's not only a personal development through all of this and what I can do and share, but also being able to help others do the same thing for themselves.
I think that was a pretty good follow-up.
Yeah. I think for me, this has been a single-minded, self-aggrandizing, megalomaniacal push for control and power. And what better place to find that than the nonprofit sector?
How's that working out?
That's it's the Hindenburg of power. But actually, I think for me, it's always come down to like my prior experiences through adventure education, through experiential learning. I come back to a few key things when I was young. I remember my first backpacking trip, how that fundamentally changed how I viewed things and viewed myself, because it was just a giant pile of pain and suffering for a week in the woods, carrying all your food, being covered by dirt and bugs and loving it, and then realizing what you could do afterwards. And then also when I started working at, Holiday Hill Day Camp, I was 18, I was a camp counselor. I started that summer. I didn't have a camping background, a campership background rather. But I'm afraid of heights. Always been afraid of heights. And we were like, it's staff training week and we're going to do the ropes course. And I'm like, heck no. Like, that's terrifying. That's 20, 30 feet up in the trees. And the tiny little rope, that's like, I'm going to die a horrible death. I didn't. But I remember sitting on going through the course, having the support of the people around me, being abjectly terrified, and then sitting on the platform of the giant swing, where you have to take that leap of faith and to cognitively know, like the prefrontal cortex is saying, it can lift a Volkswagen, the system is secure, while the limbic brain is screaming, you are going to die the biggest splattering death you could die. In that battle between the two, and then taking that leap, not splatting, and reflecting on that throughout my whole life. Like, what is it like to just take that step, to leap of faith, not just a leap of faith, but the leap of faith into a thing that you know can happen, that you know the background of it, that you understand it, but that kind of battle between those two. And I just found them, for me, to be very powerful experiences. So I wanted to create a space where that could happen for other people, give them that opportunity, because that was something I was privileged to do. And I'm also a nerd, so I was like, well, I'm also going to roll into it things like gaming and technology and hanging out space and those type of things. And yeah, so for me, it was kind of always coming back to those two key, like, formative moments.
Really well said. And I think it's funny, too, about the word adventure, that oftentimes we talk about adventure, we tell stories about it after it's happened, but in the moment, it's things like you've described. It's terrifying.
Yep.
At the worst, it's terrifying, and at the least, it's really annoying because of it's wet, it's cold, it's buggy. Yeah. But all those things play a role in you, in the end, being able to tell this amazing story about what you've accomplished.
And you just remind me that we need a subject about gamification of learning experiences, because I think that's a huge piece of things that I got out of adventure that I didn't realize were a thing. The amount of times they just created these facilitated experiences where you get to be a character, or you get to step into a role that you didn't think you'd be in charge of, right? You're trying to navigate a path where somebody is blindfolded, and you're trying to tell them how they take their steps and grab objects off the ground, and then successfully doing it without fully being able to see the full picture. For me, that's like a fun game, but also a great lesson to learn about how we communicate with each other, how we navigate different experiences. And that's all throughout adventure, whether that's leaping off a pamper pole, or going on a whitewater rafting trip and falling out of the boat and being rescued, or you're just in a room where you have a circle of hula hoops that you're walking through and have a maze to figure out.
Yeah.
It's all part of the adventure, and it could be anywhere and everywhere. And sometimes gamification is a great way to get people energized.
Yes. And also, to the point, too, like, it also changes how we think about things, sometimes surface level, but also very substantively. One of the things I love about adventure education is that it pushes back on this theory of born leaders, which is bunk. And leaders aren't made. No, they are. People rise to occasions. People learn communication. They learn how to develop a vision and share that with other people. Those are skills that you gain. Nobody's born with this innate. Nobody comes out, day 2, waving the flag and getting ready to lead, right? These are things that we're taught, that we learn, that how we leverage our internal experiences in our external world. And I think part of that is people often say, well, I'm not a leader, I can't do this. And then the next thing you know, they're doing it. They're picking the trail that we're working on. They're taking the initiative during a challenge course exercise. They are, what we've seen even here in base camp, a new member of base camp comes in, and the existing youth leaders just start showing them around, introducing them to how the space works, showing them the ropes, right? And these are things that kind of come back to that concept of stepping out of our comfort zone, challenging ourselves to do things, and stepping into that new role that you were talking about, that leadership role, or sometimes the followership role. Somebody who's always up in the front, challenging them to step in the back and let somebody else take charge for a little while. So I think that's one of the things I love most about adventure, is it allows to have fun, gamified learning that can have really powerful, substantive results.
I think the other thing that we're learning in this work this year is that there isn't just one type of leader, right? So oftentimes we have this definition of leadership as being very monochromatic. But in keeping with this idea of adventure and journey, everyone's journey is a little bit different, and we talk about being an organization that does youth development and youth leadership, and the reality is every person who's involved in the program has an opportunity to kind of define for themselves what leadership looks like and how they lead themselves, but also potentially how they could lead other people.
Yeah.
And that's another piece that definitely motivates me and fascinates me, and it can be complicated at times.
Leading self, right? That is having a personal vision, that is goal setting, that is developing a plan to make your goal, that is holding yourself accountable to what you need to do to ensure your own success. So there's a lot of self-determination there in self-leadership. There's a lot of self-reliance there. It takes perseverance. It takes grit. I think that's where adventure education really shines too, is right, just being able to push through that and hold yourself accountable. We often think of leaders as helping hold other people accountable to a group thing, but I love that point of leading self.
It has to start self.
Yeah.
If you're not in a place in which you
Exactly.
could lead yourself in a direction, how do you feel like you could lead other people? Right? It's the whole tiered system of you need to understand self before you get to understand others, and then take them out into a different journey.
Yeah.
I also didn't realize that when we started this podcast, I have an image of a baby in a diaper walking around with a flag and charging the next boat across the river. Thank you for that imagery, Jay.
Yeah. I think that in and of itself needs to be a social media push. Diaper baby leader. That's it. Totally just changed how we are now an early child care provider of flag waving baby leaders.
This is what we call a nonprofit pivot.
Yes, nonprofit pivot. Changing the business model, donate now. But I love that point. It starts internally. And helping everybody, not just youth, but helping people understand that, whether that's, a community member who doesn't believe that they have the power to make that change, helping a youth that, doesn't maybe have the self-confidence that they truly have earned, right, because of what they're bringing to the table, and starting internally with us to realize that, part of our accountability is to be open to growth, learning, and letting the community guide this as much as we do. Just being here to facilitate it.
Yeah, we're all in it in terms of the learning journey. We're a learning organization. I also wanted to mention a couple of recent community mentors that spoke with some of our youth programs. Separately, said the same thing, and it's connected to what we've been discussing around. First, you lead yourself, and then you do need, along the way, some allies and some mentors. And it was interesting because both people, without any prompting from me, when they shared their own life stories about kind of how they've gotten to where they are, said that in addition to being resilient and overcoming obstacles and not backing down, they also needed people in their lives to help them, whether it was individual mentors or networks, and talking about that. And I feel like that's another really powerful component that we bring to our community is we're building a network, and then also helping the youth we work with to build their own sort of social capital.
Absolutely. Like that journey starts internally, but it never ends internally. No, but the concept that we tend to have, especially in the West, of this, self-made, I did it all myself. That is also nonsense, right? Like nobody operates in a vacuum. It is a driving factor of humanity is that we have to connect with other people. We are successful based upon each other. It's the concept of Ubuntu, right? Like I am because we are made stronger because of everything that the community, everything in our tribe that everybody brings into that discussion. The effort takes a village type of concept.
And everybody has something to bring. Every single person in a community has something to bring, and sometimes you just need to be told that, or informed that you can share. So this is us right now telling all of you, whatever community you're in, share, be a part of it, bring you.
Yeah.
It's okay. Do it.
At the end of the day, you've got to take that first step and to go in and put yourself out there and try to be the change you want to see in the world. If I'm going to get a little, little dripping with, adages here, but
Bring some Gandhi into the conversation.
Exactly. Be the change.
Nothing will change if nothing changes. Someone said that to me the other day, and I was just trying to remember it, hence why I was like moving up to the mic and not saying anything. But yeah, nothing will change if nothing changes.
That is surprisingly deep.